Hello everyone. Today I'm doing something a bit different. Today I am going to be using a stove to cook. To be honest, I'm a little bit disgusted at the idea, but it looks like I'm moving down south soon, so I guess I'm gonna have to get used to the idea of using a stove. Now, I know that might seem a bit harsh, saying that I feel a bit disgusted by it, but it really is not my personal preference. I prefer cooking with fire because the wood, the smoke and the flames just add that extra element to your cooking. It really does change the taste. You can impart other flavors that you're just not going to get with a stove, and you can use the fire to create a better taste, which is a bit of a lost art form. But the difference you get when you start learning how to use that fire and that wood, that smoke as a flavor enhancer, it's just the kinds of beautiful flavors you can get from fire. It's just magnificent. But a lot of places down south don't let you have a fire. So today I am cooking on a stove, but still cooking something a little interesting. I'm gonna try and do crocodile pizza in a mess kit without cooking it from the top down.
You're in Crocodile. That's not how the food chain's supposed to work.
See, last time I did pizza in a mix kit, I used fire, but then I was able to cook it from the top down. This time, got a bit of a problem now, don't I? Honestly, this would be a lot better cooked with fire. I'd be able to lightly toast my pizza bread before I put the toppings on it, and I'd be able to flame grill the crocodile. But oh well, such is life. Last time, remember, I made up a dough. Well, that is, if you actually saw the last time I cooked a pizza around the bush. You may remember that I made a dough and covered it in topping and just cooked that from the top down in a mess kit. Well, yes, you can cook a pizza from scratch. A little tip to make it a lot easier is these. You can get little mini pizza bases, and they fit inside of, well, at least this mess kit. So I'm thinking that sounds alright. Now if you wanted to do a lightweight or a diet version of this, something I like to do at home is make pizzas on a tortilla. Especially a lightweight tortilla. Really drops the calories. I might give you some little tips on how you can reduce the calories on a pizza while doing this video. Alright, so to start off, I'm going to cook the crocodile meat separate because it's a white meat. And you know what, if the onion's a little underdone, or the sun-dried tomatoes aren't, cooked, no big deal. But if my white meat, the crocodile, isn't cooked, that could be a real problem. So, gonna cook this up first. What I'm gonna do now, just want to add a bit of margarine. Just got some frozen, well, it's not frozen anymore, but it's crocodile meat with a bit of salt and pepper. It was frozen when I left home. It's now defrosted, but it's still cold at least. Gonna put that in there to try and keep some of the heat in. Bring it back when there's some action. Alright, so I've added more butter. and I figured that I just gotta hold it off of the pan a little just to get maximum heat, and just, you know, making sure that there's plenty of butter in there to lubricate the hell out of it. Of course, you could probably think of less fatty ways to do this, but what the hell, that is way too much butter. It's gonna be pretty much boiling in butter, and I wish I had some garlic to add to it. Actually, I added garlic powder to the onion. I should be browning the onion in with it. Oh, I'm so silly. I should have been doing that from the start. See, there's garlic powder in here with this. Garlic, butter, and onion. With Crocodile. Oh. You're so silly. And what the hell? A little bit of kick. I love this stuff. Jalapeno Tabasco sauce. Whoa. Of course, I'm going to have to chop all this stuff up when I'm done to add it as a pizza topping. So now it's crocodile, onion, garlic, jalapenos. No, might not even need to make a pizza out of it. Let's add some herbs to it. Yeah. One thing with pizzas, when you're trying to get the calories down, a lot of people like to add a lot of toppings to pizzas. I like to add a lot of seasonings and spices because, you know what? They don't have a lot of calories, but they massively boost the taste. So, I'm just going to let this bad boy cook. It's nice and brown. Probably just going to have to hold it up a little bit off of the flames. Oh well. It just smells so delicious. So I'm just flipping the crocodile, just want to cook it on the other side for a little bit longer. I'd say it's about done. However, just got to make sure. Now, I'm not going to use my op mill or my other knives that I use for wood carving and other survival and bushcraft stuff. I'm not going to use them for food. You know, I like to keep my food knife separate. I know in the past I used to just use my big knives for food prep as well as wood carving, and, you know, just do everything with one blade. I figure it's a bit more hygienic to have a separate blade for food. So, I better get this off before it burns. So I'm going to transfer that into the lid. I'll have to clean this when I get home. I wish you could smell this. It does smell delicious. Next, we need to start building our pizza. Now, I was planning on saving more margarine to lubricate the pan, but I ended up using it all on my crocodile. Oh well, you win some, you lose some. We've got our base. Of course, we need a nice pizza sauce. This one has garlic and onion and other herbs added to it. You know, it's not just straight tomato paste. This is an actual paste intended to be used for pizzas, so it's got, you know, kinds of seasonings that go great in pizza already added. So I'm just gonna get that on there thick. Plenty of sauce. Next, you know what, we're going to put on all that meat. So, I've got to cut it up, don't I? Can't just have one big chunk of meat. Alright, so now we've got our crocodile cooked in garlic butter with jalapeno Tabasco sauce and Italian herbs, with onion cooked the same. Of course, for a diet option, you always would just use less. Yeah. One of the things people sometimes forget about trying to make low calorie stuff is low volume. So I like making these with tortillas, making them really small. And now I've got some black olives and sun-dried tomatoes. Now, something that was an honest mistake I made when I tried doing diet pizza is I put sun-dried tomatoes on them. Problem is, sun-dried tomatoes are in olive oil, and so I was doing diet pizzas and finding I was gaining weight because these things are just full of oil. Of course, more Italian seasoning. Now, something you can do as an alternative to sun-dried tomatoes in olive oil, for if you want to get a lower calorie version of this, is just to simply use cherry tomatoes. I love a good cherry tomato. If you get really nice ones, I can just eat them like they're lollies. They're delicious. Grape tomatoes, on the other hand, I'm not a fan of the flavour. Now, another problem a lot of people make when making a pizza is they'll just, cover it in lots of mozzarella. As much as that tastes beautiful, it's really fatty. So something I do to, get a lot of flavour but not as many calories is I like to use just a sprinkling of parmesan. So it'll just, melt and bind the whole thing, as opposed to just, giving it a layer of mozzarella. And to be honest, that's a little bit on the heavy side for a diet one, because, you know what, when I'm trying to do a diet pizza, basically treat cheese like it's pure fat. You want to add just the tiniest sprinkle of it. You know what? I'm not doing a diet version today. Get on there. Oh, yes. And of course, parmesan just, it has a much more powerful flavour than mozzarella. So if you want to do a really low calorie version, just a tiny sprinkle of parmesan, I reckon works all right. Just because it's got such a more powerful flavour. Yeah, why not? Just a few more herbs. One last thing. Just because I love the taste of jalapenos so much. Now, to finish this bad boy off. This is definitely not the diet version. Now, because the crocodile's already cooked, all I've got to do is just put this on and leave it till the cheese melts. So, I'm holding it a bit higher off to try and prevent the bottom from burning. I believe I may not have succeeded. Yep, it's burnt on the bottom. Hence the reason why I prefer to cook my pizzas from the top down when I'm out in the bush. Just a limitation of using a stove, I guess. Yeah, it went way too heavy on the parmesan. Mozzarella's nicer. Yeah, I've made nicer. So, I'm gonna have to figure out a way around that problem. And way too much parmesan. I think that's probably the worst part about it, is too much parmesan. If it was a choice between this and a muesli bar, as I think people overseas call them granola, I think you Americans call it. No, choice between that or this, I want this. But it would have been better if I could have cooked it from the top down. And if I had been trying the diet version with a tortilla as a base, man, this thing would just be gone. Although perhaps if I had had some leftover margarine or olive oil to coat the pan, maybe it wouldn't have burned. Right. Hey everyone, see you. Oh, and if you don't know what crocodile tastes like, imagine chicken with a really weak flavour. Depending on which part of the croc you get it from. Sometimes it tastes a little bit more like fish. Sometimes a combination of the two. Hey everyone, see you.